I guess one of the questions people are asking is, what exactly did you do to these women? Both the ones that allege that you groped their buttocks in these pictures, and also to Leanne Tweeden, who says you forcibly kissed her.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as these pictures of women in Minnesota, I meet thousands, as you know, people in Minnesota, and I take thousands of pictures. And I'm a warm person, and I hug people. And in some of these encounters, in the pictures or meetings, some women, and any, is too many, have felt that I have crossed a line, and I am terribly sorry about it. They feel that in these interactions I've done something to disrespect them, and that's not my intention. But what I know is that the intention doesn't matter. What matters is we listen to women's experience. And so I've been trying to think about, I feel terrible that they have felt this way, and I've been trying to think of how this could have happened, and I know very well that I have to be much more careful and much more sensitive.
Right.
And
but Senator, these women are using very similar language to describe basically their butt cheek being cupped or grabbed. I mean, this Lindsay Menz says he put his hand full-fledged on my rear. It was wrapped tightly around my butt cheek. It wasn't around my waist. It wasn't around my hip or side. It was definitely on my butt. The other woman said, cup my butt, or the hand down it went. Another woman said, I mean, yes, you've taken thousands of pictures,
yes,
but when you grab somebody's butt, don't you know it?
I understand that. And I am going to have to do everything I can going forward to be enormously sensitive. I apologize to these women, and I think that what I want to do is emerge from this to better understand the woman's experience. I am so sorry that I've made people feel terrible, and I want to be able to, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I want to be, I want to apologize to the people of Minnesota, and I want to work to gain their trust back. That's not going to happen overnight. There are no magic words that I can say, but I am going to work to regain the trust of the people, and I hope I come out of this as a better public servant and as a better man.
Okay. I guess, just going back to the specific allegation, though, are they mistaken that their butt was grabbed? Is that what you're saying?
I am not saying that. I don't remember these. As I said, I take thousands of photos, so I don't remember these particular photos. But I think that women's experience, my intent doesn't matter. What matters is the experience that
do you think this happened unintentionally?
My intent was not to make them feel uncomfortable. I don't remember these photographs. I don't remember the situation, but that was certainly not my intent, but my intent doesn't matter. What matters is the experience of that. We have to respect women's experience. I think that's part of the conversation that we're having now. We should always have is respecting how a woman feels about something, and that sometimes men are oblivious to something that a woman will make them feel disrespected. And
Lindsay Menz feels that you molested her. I mean, she put that on Facebook right after that photo.
I understand that, and again, I say that I respect her experience. I apologize for that. I said I felt very badly about that, and I apologize.
And I think, in these confirmation hearings for the current administration, you have been all over it. You have been sort of the bulldog, really aggressively going after the president's nominees. You expressed skepticism that Dr. Tom Price could somehow have not known he had tobacco stocks, that you found that hard to believe. I think with all due respect, I think people are going to look at this and find it hard to believe that someone such as yourself wouldn't know that they were grabbing somebody's butt.
I can understand how people would feel that way. With Secretary Price, who's now former Secretary Price, it was more than having tobacco stocks. It was trading in stocks on when he had inside information on these pharmaceuticals. That's what I was getting at. I'm going to continue asking the hard questions in hearings. I take this job seriously, and that's part of what I'm going to continue to do.
Well, another question that you got, certainly, let me put that back, when you were questioning Attorney General Sessions, both in the nominating process, well, I guess he was not quite the Attorney General then, but then in hearings afterwards, you accused him of moving the goalposts on his explanations, questioning about his ability to remember things. How does that sort of jive right now with what you're talking about and some of the statements that you've come out with that have seemed to move the goalposts on these allegations?
With Attorney General Sessions, I asked him if he would recuse himself if it turned out that members of the administration or members of the Trump campaign had met with Russians. And instead of answering that question, he said that he had not met with any Russians. Then it turned out that he had met with Ambassador Kislyak, and on, and he has changed his answer. Then he said, "I didn't."
But haven't you changed your answers in terms of the responses?
I don't.
In terms of the nature of the apologies, the terms of crossing the line, or in the latest one from the Huffington Post, the initial statement was, "I certainly don't ever remember propositioning someone to go to the bathroom." The next day there was a lengthier apology, talking about crossing the line, talking about hugging. Aren't you moving the goalposts here?
I don't think so. I don't do that. I don't. I would not have done that. What I'm saying is, like with Leanne Tweeden, I said with her that I had a different recollection of the kiss we had during the rehearsal for that. But
what is your recollection of that kiss?
My recollection of that kiss is different from hers. It is that we were rehearsing a sketch where I kiss her, and it's really to set up a soldier coming up to kiss her. And my recollection is different than hers. But as I said, in this moment, I think it's important to honor the experience of women. So I apologized to her, and I meant it. And she was gracious enough to accept my apology. And I thought that was very gracious of her.
Because she said, he put his hand on the back of my neck, mashed his lips against mine, and aggressively stuck his tongue in my mouth.
I know that's what, and I remember it differently. I do.
Because there are people, again, going back to the Tom Price.
And we're going to have an ethics investigation. What I've been doing, I've been apologizing. I've been apologized to Leanne, who accepted my apology. I apologize to any woman who I've made feel uncomfortable. I feel terrible about that. I'm also being accountable. The majority leader, Senator McConnell, immediately called for an ethics investigation. I said that we will cooperate completely with that. And then going forward, I have been reflecting on this and thinking about this, and I want to be able to handle this in a way that adds to the conversation. And in adding to the conversation, I think it is absolutely essential that people listen to women. And, but when I say I have a different recollection, I have a different recollection. So.
And that includes the incidents of the photographs?
With the photographs, I don't remember taking those photographs.
But have you ever placed a hand on some woman's butt?
I can't say that that hasn't happened. I take thousands and thousands of pictures. Sometimes in crowded and chaotic situations. I can't say I haven't done that. And I am very sorry if these women experience that. And I have to say that I have to be a lot more sensitive and a lot more careful in these, when I take a picture, when I meet someone. And I'm going to make sure that this does not happen again.
Okay. You mentioned your role going forward, that you're going to continue to ask some of these tough questions at these hearings. Can you really continue to claim kind of a moral high ground on some of these issues, including the Trump-Russia investigation, when a lot of people feel you've been less than transparent about these particular allegations?
Well, I think I'm a good questioner, and I think that the questions that I'm asking don't go to my credibility, they go to the credibility of the witness. They go to the credibility.
But hasn't your credibility been undermined?
I would say yes, and I have a long way back. I have a long way back to win back the trust of the people of Minnesota. I've let people down. I've let the people of Minnesota down. I've let my friends and staff and supporters down, my family down. I've especially let down the people who have seen me as a champion for women. A lot of the work I've done in the Senate has been being a champion for women. One of the first pieces of legislation I did was to make sure that women who work for military contractors can go to court if they've been sexually assaulted. I was very proud of that piece of legislation.
Okay. Well, I know in 2008, when it almost looked like you might lose the nomination, there was criticism of the Pornorama article, the Leslie Stahl joke.
I wrote about that in my book.
You wrote about it in your book, and you also, in the speech to the convention, you said, it kills me to think that anyone would think I was doing things against women. That was in 2008.
Yep.
Yet here we are in 2017.
I understand. It does kill me. This is, but this is more important than me. This is about this discussion that we are having in this country now. I was saying then that it killed me that these jokes I had done in comedy had made people doubt my respect for women. I respect women, and I don't respect men who don't respect women, and there are men who don't respect women. That's what this discussion is about. That's what it's about. And what I was saying then was that I understood the difference between being a comedian and being a public servant, being a senator. And I've taken being a senator very seriously. I think that Minnesotans have seen me do a lot of serious work. I think that's why I was reelected. And I think that's why I can win back the respect of the people of Minnesota. And I understand I have a long way to go.
So I take it that means you have no intention to resign.
No, we have an ethics process that I agreed to cooperate with completely. I want to be accountable to that process. I've been trying to be responsible by speaking about this in a way that I think honors the discussion that we're having in this country. And I want to learn from this. I want to be a better public servant. I want to be someone who adds to this conversation.
You know, reading some of the articles where people are interviewed about you or about these allegations, I came across a quote from a Marilyn Suzanne Miller, who apparently was in tears as she defended you, saying, how could he would never do this to Fran?
Right. Well, Franny is my rock. Franny and I met freshman year in 1969, so that's 48 years ago.
What's this been like for her and your daughter and your son?
This is, you know, we're human. This has not been the easiest time, but we're very grateful for our family. We're very grateful for our friends. I have received a tremendous amount of support from people. This is something that we know we're going to get through this as a family. I love my wife. She loves me. She's been a rock. I'm so lucky to have 2 great children, 3 great grandchildren, my son-in-law who let me stay here, and I'm, you know, we had a lot to be grateful for on Thanksgiving.
Despite all that was going on.
That's right.
You know, Gayle King, you know, the day after the, on CBS Morning News, the anchor, the day after the Charlie Rose news broke, she said, you know, well, how do you deal with when somebody you care about so much does something that is so horrible? And I think that there are a lot of people who are feeling that way in Minnesota. They are shocked because you are very popular there. We certainly were very popular.
Yes.
I mean, there are different, you know, polls out now. But I mean, how can you address that?
I'm not going to make any excuses. I am embarrassed and ashamed of some of what has come out. I'm going to work to regain people's trust. I think that people know that I've been a serious senator. I think people, you know, I don't want to focus on other people. I don't want to focus on Charlie Rose. I don't want to focus on other people. I know what the allegations are with me, and all I can say is I hope that people can look at what they are and listen to my response. I am sorry. I'm going to do everything I can to earn back the trust of people that I let down, including people who consider me a champion for women.
Is there anything else out there? Are other women going to come forward? Are you aware of any other allegations?
If you had told me 2 weeks ago that a woman was going to come forward and say I disrespected her, I would have said no.
Well, I don't think any of them are using that word. I think that's your word. I think that,
or done anything like this.
Leanne Tweeden said you forcibly
I understand
kissed
what
her.
she said, and
you know, I think they're not using the word disrespect. I think some people are looking at that word and saying, no. You know, Lindsay Menz said you molested her on Facebook right afterwards. I think these women feel this goes way beyond disrespect.
I understand that. I have a different recollection than Leanne. I don't remember the photographs with Ms. Menz. I have apologized. I apologize to her.
Did you speak to her directly or just?
No, I have not. Okay. I have not. I did write a letter to Leanne Tweeden. She read that letter on The View, and she was very gracious to accept my apology. I, again, think that it's important to respect women's experiences. That's what I'm trying to say. At the same time, I had a different recollection than about that kiss that was in a rehearsal at for the USO show.
So, but as far as you know, there's nobody else out there that's going to come forward.
I don't know of anything that's going to come forward, but I would not be, right now I've been so shocked by all of this that nothing is going to be surprising, I guess. Again, if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, would something like this, whether you say disrespected or if some accusation like this had come forward, I would have been shocked.
So you were completely blindsided by this?
Oh, yes. Yes. Now, the picture, that was inexcusable. And that's the thing I'm most, I think, ashamed for, is that photo, and no excuse for that. And so I'm just very, very sorry.
In terms of going forward, do you feel that you are diminished in any way in terms of your effectiveness or your ability to advocate for issues like net neutrality, which the Trump administration has just announced a turnaround on?
Sure.
I mean, are you a diminished figure politically?
I don't know. I'm going back to work tomorrow, and I will see what it's like. I know I'm going to work very hard on net neutrality. This has been an issue that I've been a leader on. There are other issues that I've been a leader on mental health in schools, on, I've been a champion for women, and I've been working on women in the workplace, who making it easier for them to go to court if they've been sexually harassed or if they have been experienced that in the workplace. On Indian country as well, where there's endemic problems in terms of non-Indian men and women. I'm going to continue my work. I take this job very seriously, and I'm going to continue my work very seriously. I am going to work to regain the trust of the people of Minnesota, and I don't anticipate that's going to happen overnight. There are no magic words that I can say to do that, but I want people to watch me do my work.
And you mentioned you don't want to talk about allegations against other people, but yet it's out there, and you are
Sure.
being swept into it. I mean, there are the split screens with you on one side and Roy Moore on the other side. Your thoughts on that, and it is a remarkable, series of events since the Harvey Weinstein story broke, I think, on October 5th in the New York Times.
I understand. I think that's why we are at a moment, and this is a moment that has always existed,
right,
which is that there are men who disrespect women, who don't respect women, and not only that, but act in horrible ways, like some of the people you've talked about. And I obviously don't like to be on a split screen with them. I'm trying to handle this differently. I'm trying to honor women, honor them coming forward, because I think for too long that women have not been believed. And that's the situation I'm in. I'm trying to handle it in the correct way. I'm trying to add to the conversation. I'm trying to be responsible. I want to be accountable in the ethics committee, and I want to learn from this and be a better man.
What were your thoughts about the president calling you out, given his history?
Listen, I worry about the direction he's taking this country. I worry about this enormous tax giveaway to the wealthiest, the very wealthiest Americans, and to large, powerful corporations. This is going to affect Minnesota. This is going to affect all Americans. I'm going to fight this tax cut, which is just a huge giveaway and is going to hurt the middle class.
Right, but he called you out for sexually harassing someone when he has allegations against him.
I understand.
What do you think should happen with him? What should happen with Roy Moore?
I'm not going to talk about other people. I'm just not. I'm not going to.
Okay. Going back to the 2008, in your book you do say, you were just doing your job, with those jokes or writing that thing. Do you really still believe that?
I was writing a comedy. There was a context to these jokes that I wrote. I was working on a show that was edgy, and not everything that you pitch in a writer's meeting is meant to go on a show. But I was doing my job. I understand the difference between that job. That's what I was saying in my convention speech in 2008, which is I understand the difference between being a comedian and being a senator. And that I think Minnesotans have seen that I've taken this job very seriously and that I've accomplished a lot in the Senate, and I hope to continue to accomplish a lot more.
Have you ever, at any point in your career, either in show business, comedy, or in the Senate, have you ever had to settle a sexual harassment claim?
No.
Or has one ever been formally brought against you in any form?
No.
No. Okay. So this came out of the blue.
Yes.
Okay. And because you had seen Leanne Tweeden since then, since 2006, right?
Yeah, we had. Listen, I honor her commitment to the USO. She's done a lot of USO tours. That was our first one together. I had done the last three USO tours to Kuwait, Iraq, and Afghanistan with a Sergeant Major of the Army. She had done a lot of USO shows as well, and I honor her commitment to our troops, and I apologize if I ruined that experience for her in the trip in 2006.
I know you've really prided yourself in your time in the Senate of making friendships across the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You're going back to work tomorrow. What's the reception going to be? I mean, have your colleagues reached out to you?
I've had colleagues reach out, yes, and I've had some express disappointment, but I've had a lot of support as well. And sort of at the same time. I mean, and saying that we need to go through the ethics process. But I've had calls and texts of friendship.
Okay. So is it going to be sort of back to kind of the way things were with Senator Al Franken being accessible, or being out there, being at the Capitol, going back to Minnesota? I mean, for 9 days, it's kind of been, with the exception of a number of statements from your staff, sort of radio silence, which is different than the way you normally handle things.
It is. This has been a different situation. And I've been here thinking and contemplating and being with my family.
Is there anything else you would like to say, or just to the people of Minnesota? I know you've said a lot, but is there anything you wish you could do or say or get out there in any way?
Yeah, I wish I would like the opportunity to earn back the trust that I am sorry that I need to regain. And I apologize. I feel terrible for letting so many people down. And I'm going to be responsible and apologize for what I need to apologize for. I'm going to be accountable by going through the process of the ethics committee, and I am going to work as hard as I can to win back the trust of so many people that I love in Minnesota, so many groups that I've worked on behalf of, and so many just the great people of Minnesota. I'm going to do my darndest to do that.
You've also gotten support. There have been letters from former staffers, huge list of people from Saturday Night Live. There was another from a women's violence advocate that Alexander sent this morning. I mean, is that
sure? I mean, that
mean?
reflects the work that I've done in the Senate, and I mean, one of the bitter ironies of this is that I have been a leader on this issue in terms of violence against women, assault on women, sexual harassment, their ability to get into court, stalking apps, the Coalition for Battered Women in Minnesota, worked with them. I've worked with these groups, and there has been support for me, and I understand that that's hard for people to do, and there was support I've been in the public eye for a long time. I worked in comedy for a long time. I was very happy that the 36 women who were colleagues of mine at Saturday Night Live wrote a letter just speaking to how I was at work, and that I respected women at work. And same with former staff on my Senate staff. I've had women at the top of my organization as chief of staff, as state director, as my campaign chairman, my campaign chairman or campaign director, manager. I respect women. I put them in the highest jobs in my office. This is embarrassing and heartbreaking for me. I'm going to do the best I can to demonstrate that I respect women.
I think it's also been embarrassing and heartbreaking for them.
Yes, and I apologize to my staff, to my friends who, I will say there are a lot of people who know me and who have talked to me and given me a lot of moral support, and I really appreciate that.
Okay.
I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Thank you, Esme, for coming all the way out here.
Thank you, Senator, for doing it. Appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Back to Minnesota. It'll be soon, I'm sure.
But tomorrow you'll be back at your office on Capitol Hill.
Tomorrow I'll be at the office in Capitol Hill. I'll be voting in the afternoon. We'll be having good for the middle class. This is not good for our kids. The problem in our country isn't that there's the rich people in this country have